goodness. Oh, you could scoot over here.
So, dearly beloved, we're gathered today with ants in our pants, remembering Seymour Carter and any stories that come up. How can I do this without being imposing?
Can you read in the
Yeah, you can stand
there's
there.
a good spot.
That's good.
So, the date today, what is today?
July 25th.
July 25th,
2013.
2013.
Tassajara.
At Tassajara. During a week of sensory awareness. And with, say your names. Helen.
I'm Helen, Tashima.
And I'm Eugene, Tashima.
Sheman.
Sally sent me the space holder.
Great. So just feeling where you are right now and feeling the creek and the support of the wind and the support of the stone. You just take a moment to come in touch with where you are right now. And the sounds and your breath. And the contact of your body and your bones with the ground. And Seymour used to say to me, notice your thoughts, memories, and rehearsals when they come up, and just notice them and see if you can come back to feeling into your breathing, into your sitting. I'm beginning to consider making a shift to coming into more of your public self, your speaking self. Taking all the time you need to make that shift. And then opening your eyes and stretching and yawning if you want, and coming awake in the group, letting me find my spot where I can be with you and not get ants in my pants. I'm negotiating all these ants. Yeah.
Do you want to
So-
put on my backpack?
No, I just want to move around. So tell me what you all remember about Seymour Carter. Try to look at you, but I know from before I shake when I hold the camera, so I'm looking in the camera a lot. Yeah.
I remember a wild-looking, gruff person. Seymour was really significant to me. I think it was the first time I went to Esalen in the early 70s. And I got a massage from this wild man. And it was an experience of just really awake hands and connection. I was actually I was amazed. It was so different and so gentle and so present. And I asked him, where did he learn that? And he says, well, you have to meet my teacher. And I thought it was some fantastic person. And it turned out to be Charlotte Selver. And so he was the one who introduced me to sensory awareness. And it was such a key moment in my life, being introduced to Charlotte Selver and the awake quality that he had from her. Yeah, he was a surprising person to me because he seemed like a wild man, but my experience of him was very different from that.
Did you experience him as being present all the time, or mostly when he was working, or?
I experienced him as being very honest and kind of a renegade. He was not a person that could be collared or put into a box. And the side of him that I heard about and really surprised me was that he was very well-read, well-educated, and I remember him recalling seeing Charlotte Selver for the first time. He was walking by this space at Esselen, which it was pretty well. He said the way that her space was kind of well presented, things were in a quiet order, and he hadn't seen that at Esselen before. Something was different, and he got curious. But it really impressed him that there was this kind of quality of taking care of things. Yeah, he was a very, to say the least, unorthodox.
It's funny because he became so into taking care of things himself. He would organize everything into baskets in his car, and when he'd take his belongings away, he'd put one basket into the next basket into the next, and every night he slept on a tatami mat in his car. And then in the morning he would organize and put his books in one basket and his accessories in another basket. And yeah, I was impressed by that. And I didn't even think until just this moment that Charlotte was so interested in tatami mats. And I don't know if that was some of the order that he witnessed in the 60s that you're talking about. But that's how I remember it.
Well, I first saw Seymour also in the late 60s at Esalen, and his appearance kind of put me off in the sense that I was rather frightened because of his appearance. He had a very large hairstyle, a large afro-like looking like hairstyle with beard and dark hair, and as Jean said, looked like a wild man. So I didn't quite feel comfortable attending any of his workshops at the time. I was aware that he was involved in Gestalt therapy and massage therapy and encounter groups, yes. So I did not actually attend one of his workshops until a few years ago at Vallombrosa. So I just wanted to mention the contrast in my personal experience of him. Because now he was trimmed a little more, his beard was trimmed, and he felt more approachable to me, and I also felt a little bit of a connection after Gene described his experience with him. So I attended one of his workshops, which I found to be very illuminating and quite enjoyable. He seemed to have, first of all, a more gentle, softer quality than I imagined at first, and his depth of understanding and of taking us into various places in the workshop, I found very helpful and very interesting. And I can't exactly remember details, but I certainly felt quite a positive connection with his style of working with people and with us and with sensory awareness.
Thanks, Helen. Yeah, I remember he was really into sticks and stones, and that's what he told me. Just play with sticks and stones, you'll be okay. That's one of the big lessons he gave me. Yeah, was that? Remember if that experiment was at Vallombrosa or at Fort Mason?
No, it was at Vallombrosa.
Yeah.
Several years ago.
Yeah.
When he was one of the leaders of the workshops.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Bouncing around there, pretty much as Helen described, pretty wild and out there. And for me, he was an iconoclast, someone who breaks the icons. And he definitely had that battle going with Esalen, but he went through a lot of changes. I remember a workshop he gave right after 9/11, and there was some people had come from New York, and they didn't feel like what was needing to be addressed for them was being addressed, and so they felt that somehow Seymour wasn't, I don't know what they expected to get. But the interesting thing is, from that workshop, which I attended, to later one at Vallombrosa, I mean, Seymour had radically shifted in kind of the way Helen's talking about it, is in a very, very insightful, and I loved his way of bringing to the table the public self and the private self. And I remember we were sitting in a circle, and I was kind of leaning back like this, and Seymour was talking about the public self and the private self, and I realized that when I speak in a circle, that I would always be in the position that people would listen. They would listen like this, but they wouldn't listen if you were like this, in my mind. But of course, there's some truth to that too. And so when it came around to me, I mentioned how interesting that was to discover in that session that I would normally, and I spoke from this position because I felt like that was really more authentic. But it was just interesting how that was brought out. And I became, I think, a little more connected with Seymour because for whatever reason, he had started working with this blind student, Ryan Richards, and somehow Ryan Richards and I got connected at Vallombrosa. And I knew that from what Seymour was saying, that he felt that Ryan had kind of had automatically had to deal with being present in a way that tapped into his central nervous system because he had no choice, being a blind person from the age of 4. And Seymour was very enthusiastic and excited about the potential to work with Ryan in this way. And according to Ryan, Ryan said that Seymour asked him to write a book about his experiences as a blind person. And he did write this article for the Sensory Awareness Foundation newsletter that was really pretty amazing. And I've been in touch with him since Seymour's death a couple of times, and I think it was pretty tough for him because he was so connected, and Seymour was really bringing him into the sensory awareness kind of community, but with this special kind of focus that Ryan has because of being blind. So that's something that hopefully that legacy can somehow continue, and the board has considered in some way supporting Ryan, but it's still a work in progress. But I'm hoping that that can happen because I know that would make Seymour, would be very fulfilling for Seymour, even in the spirit form.
Yes.
That would be really special and amazing for him. So we'll see if that can happen. I hope it can.
Did you feel heard, Len, coming back to that position, to sitting back? Did you feel like the room was paying attention?
I actually felt that it never really mattered. This way, that way. Once I saw that it was my public self that I was presenting, it kind of all just dropped away, and it was like, oh, so that's what I've been doing all this time. And I could see as it moved around the circle, I was getting ready to go into my public position. Until I just abandoned it and started talking about it instead. But I really felt that Seymour, and so many things were happening for Seymour in a good way. This work in Europe that he was doing, in Ukraine. I mean, it was just, he worked in Poland. Things were happening, and that's sort of the sadness, that he was really coming into some new way of being, because what he was doing was being recognized in a particular way that it hadn't before. And I really think he felt that a lot from the European connection.
Yeah, he was so excited.
Yeah.
He was so excited to potentially work in Japan, and he had an invitation, I think, to work there, and he was just so amped up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it just seemed like a tragedy. This energy, which was just starting to move up, hadn't come to the peak yet, but it was definitely moving up, and then it got cut.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be cut then. What else can you say? It happened. And we can't argue with life or death in that sense. He left, and maybe that was his apex. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I know it was very tricky for you, difficult for you because of your connection.
Yeah.
He seemed more willing in the last, 5 years to be part of
Virginia had died. But he was very wise about it. He knew he couldn't do the detailed letters and things, so he just said, I can do it as long as I don't have to deal with that. And that's kind of how he approached it.
But he was willing to put himself there, which was, I thought was really interesting.
And I don't know if it was at Vallombrosa, where I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, where there was a Leaders Guild and board meeting, and Seymour gave an amazing sort of seminar, really, on how to lead sensory awareness. Remember that, Gene? That was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And he was clearly the elder in this work.
There might be a tape of that.
There probably is a tape.
Who do you think might have that?
Sarah Gordon.
Sarah Gordon.
Yeah, I'm sure she would have taped it.
What year do you think that was?
I was probably, I don't know, maybe the first year at Vallombrosa, maybe. Which is, I think this has been 4 years.
I think it was the second year.
So it was about probably at least about 3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, and she'll remember because she, and I'm pretty positive she had audio taped it, and it was really, and I also would love to have that audio tape because he just went into so many things, subtleties about this work, working with groups, how he found ways that it worked, and when it didn't, he would do this or that. It was great. So that's definitely something to try to track down.
Yeah, that sounds really huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And the room was full of other leaders and the board, and everybody was very kind of, I'd say everyone except maybe one or two people was really behind it, but everyone else, some people maybe felt like, why did he take over? But everybody, there seemed to be a pretty common agreement. This is great stuff. Let's hear it. Let's have it come out.
Yeah.
And so I hope that can be found.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the things he just didn't write a lot. He did send me one page of how to lead sensory awareness experiments and give people plenty of space. He said, I think don't blabber on endlessly. Give people a chance to feel into the invitation or the instruction.
Also, permission to sleep. He was very big on that. You could sleep. Sleeping could be fine. That's what you need. Sleep. Not a problem. And that's a lot of permission.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that tremendously. Because I find myself sometimes sleeping.
Yeah.
And when I do, it's like I feel like, well, that's what it was needed, rather than beat myself up about it.
Yeah. I remember that too, because after his role shifted at Esalen, I invited him to lead sensing classes, and we would do it in a little wooden yurt with just massage crew members. And he and I would often be feeling my back and be after work, and he would just let me lay there instead of whatever it was, and I would just lay on my back. So I definitely felt supported by him in that way. Any of you do any gestalt at all with him, or is this you purely know him from sensing?
Yeah.
Good, and then just maybe come back into your private self. Let your eyes close and make sure you feel like complete. What you've said. What you said was beautiful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Lars. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you have your permission to use this video,
Yeah,
put it into an archive,
Absolutely.
and maybe make a transcript and perhaps publish it in a book.
it's fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you both.
I got my yes on tape.
You're watching?
Yes, on
Yes.
tape.
Yes, on tape.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so we don't have to send you a form and have you sign it.
Right.
Yes. Thumbs up.
All right.